The listing said completely private cabin. What it didn't say was that someone else already knew I was coming. I realized that the moment I unlocked the door and saw the chair, slightly pulled out, like someone had just stood up. I remember standing there for a long time, keys still in my hand, staring into that small wooden cabin. It was deep in the mountains, miles from the nearest town. No neighbors. No signal. Just trees and silence. At first I told myself I was overthinking. Maybe the host forgot to push the chair back. Maybe a cleaner had been there earlier. I stepped inside. The air felt stale. Not dusty. Just used. Like someone had been breathing in there not long ago. I dropped my bag near the couch and walked around slowly. One bedroom. Small kitchen. Bathroom at the back. Everything looked normal, but nothing felt untouched. The bed sheets were neat but not tight. The trash bin was empty, but there was a faint smell like something had been thrown out recently. I checked my phone. No signal. I laughed it off. You wanted isolation, I said out loud. But my voice sounded wrong in that space. Too loud. Like it didn't belong there. I locked the door. Around sunset, I made some instant noodles and sat by the window. The forest outside turned black fast. No lights anywhere. No roads. Just trees swallowing the last bit of orange sky. That's when I heard it. A soft crunch. Like someone stepping on dry leaves. I froze. Another step. Slow. Careful. Right outside. I held my breath and leaned toward the window, but the glass only showed my reflection. The inside was brighter than the outside. I couldn't see anything beyond it. The footsteps stopped. Just like that. I stayed still for maybe 5 minutes. Nothing else. No movement. No sound. Eventually I convinced myself it was an animal. It had to be. I closed the curtains. Later that night I tried to sleep. The cabin creaked a lot. Old wood. Wind. Normal stuff. But around 2 a.m. I woke up. Not from a noise. From a feeling. Like someone was in the room with me. My eyes opened slowly. The room was dark, but faint moonlight leaked through the edges of the curtain. And then I heard it. Breathing. Not mine. Slow, controlled, coming from somewhere near the door. I stopped breathing completely just to be sure. It was still there. Inhale. Exhale. Close. Too close. My chest tightened. I didn't move. I didn't even blink. I just listened. Then it stopped. Silence again. After what felt like forever, I reached for my phone and turned on the flashlight. I pointed it at the door. Nothing. Empty. I got up, shaking, and checked every corner of the room. Then the bathroom. Then the kitchen. Nothing. Doors and windows still locked. I told myself I imagined it. That half-asleep state, it messes with your head. Still, I didn't go back to bed. I sat on the couch, light on, knife from the kitchen in my hand. Morning couldn't come fast enough. At sunrise I felt stupid. Everything looked normal again. Peaceful even. I packed my bag, ready to leave early. Didn't care about the booking anymore. But before leaving I checked the front door. Still locked. And that's when I noticed something that made my stomach drop. The second lock. The one I never touched. It was open. I stared at it, confused. I clearly remembered locking only the main one last night, but this one? It wasn't just unlocked. It looked worn, scratched, like it had been used many times recently. From the inside. My heart started racing again. I stepped back slowly and looked around the cabin one more time. That's when I saw it. Near the kitchen. A door. I swear, it wasn't there before. A narrow wooden door, same color as the wall. No handle. Slightly open. Just a crack. I felt cold all over. I walked toward it slowly. Every step felt wrong. Like I was making a mistake I couldn't undo. I pushed it open. It led down. A small, steep staircase into darkness. And the smell. That same stale air but stronger. Thicker. Used. I pointed my flashlight down and started descending. Each step creaked loudly. The air got heavier. At the bottom there was a small space. Dirt floor. Low ceiling. And then I saw it. A mattress. Blankets. Water bottles. Food wrappers. Not old. Fresh. Someone had been living there. Very recently. My hands started shaking. And then I noticed something else. Right next to the mattress. My bag. Not the one upstairs. Another one. Mine. The one I had left in my car before entering the cabin. It was open. My clothes, my charger, even my wallet, all taken out and placed neatly. Like someone had gone through everything. Slowly. Carefully. I felt something behind me. A shift in the air. A presence. Breathing. Right at the top of the stairs. I turned my flashlight upward. And for a split second, I saw him. A man. Standing completely still, watching me. Then he moved. Fast. I ran. I don't even remember climbing the stairs. I just remember slamming into the door, tripping, scrambling toward the exit. The front door was already open. I didn't question it. I ran outside, straight to my car, hands shaking so bad I dropped the keys twice. I drove. Didn't stop. Didn't look back. Hours later, when I finally got signal, I reported everything. Police went there. They called me back that evening. They found the basement. They found the mattress. They found signs someone had been living there for weeks. But they didn't find him. And the worst part? They told me something I still can't get out of my head. There were marks around the inside of the cabin walls. Small holes. Hidden. Perfectly placed. Like someone had been watching every room. For a long time. Waiting. For the right guest to finally arrive. I woke up to the sound of someone slowly trying my bedroom door. Not knocking. Not pushing. Just testing the handle again and again. And the worst part was, I had locked that door from the inside. I had booked the Airbnb for a quiet weekend away. It was deep in the mountains, about 2 hours from the nearest town. No neighbors. No signal. Just trees, dirt roads, and silence. The host had been friendly over messages. Said the place was perfect for disconnecting. That should have been my first warning. I arrived just before sunset. The cabin looked normal enough. Small. Wooden. A little worn down but clean. There was a keypad on the front door. I used the code they sent me and got inside. Everything felt off. Not wrong. Just watched. I checked the rooms. 1 bedroom. 1 bathroom. A small kitchen. No signs of anyone else. I even checked the closets. Empty. Still, I locked the door behind me. Twice. Night came fast. Out there, once the sun drops, it's just darkness. No streetlights. No distant cars. Nothing. Around 10 p.m., I heard footsteps outside. Slow. Crunching on gravel. I froze on the couch. Held my breath. The footsteps stopped right outside the front door. I waited. Then, a soft scrape. Like someone lightly dragging their fingers across the wood. I didn't move. After a minute it stopped. I told myself it was an animal. Maybe a deer. Something harmless. But animals don't walk up to doors like that. I turned off all the lights and stayed quiet. Eventually I convinced myself it was nothing and went to bed. I locked the bedroom door. Something I don't usually do. I don't know what time it was when I woke up again. But that's when I heard it. The door handle. Slowly turning. Then stopping. Then turning again. Over and over. Whoever was on the other side wasn't trying to break in. They were being careful. Quiet. Like they didn't want me to wake up. I sat there in the dark, staring at the door. My heart pounding so loud I thought they could hear it. I grabbed my phone. No signal. I thought about calling emergency services anyway, but I remembered, no reception out here. The handle stopped moving. Silence. Then footsteps. Inside the cabin. My stomach dropped. I had locked the front door. I was sure of it. The footsteps moved slowly. Across the living room. Into the kitchen. Cabinets opening. Closing. I couldn't move. I couldn't breathe. Then they stopped right outside my bedroom door. Nothing for a few seconds. Then, a soft knock. 3 taps. I didn't respond. Another 3 taps. Then a voice. Low. Calm. I know you're awake. I felt something inside me just collapse. I stayed silent. The voice came again. You didn't check the crawl space. My eyes darted around the room. Crawl space? I hadn't seen anything like that. Then I noticed it. A small wooden panel near the floor, on the wall beside the bed. Blending in perfectly with the rest of the wood. I hadn't paid attention to it before. The voice whispered again, closer now. I've been here the whole time. I grabbed the nearest thing I could find, a lamp, and backed away from the wall. The panel shifted. Just slightly. From the inside. Something pushed against it. Slowly. Quietly. I didn't think. I just ran. I unlocked the bedroom door and sprinted through the cabin. The front door was still locked, but the chain I had put on was hanging loose. Like someone had opened it and locked it again. I didn't stop to think. I punched in the code with shaking hands and got outside. The cold air hit me like a shock. I ran straight to my car. As I started the engine, I looked back at the cabin. The front door was open now. Just a crack. And in the gap, I saw a face. Not moving. Just watching me. I drove all the way down the mountain without stopping. The next day, when I finally got signal, I contacted the host. No reply. I reported the place. A week later, I got a call back. They told me something I still think about every night. That cabin wasn't listed anymore. Because the real owner had reported it months ago. Someone had been renting it out illegally. Living there. Using it. And waiting for guests. They found the crawl space. It ran beneath the entire cabin. Food wrappers. Blankets. Bottles. And inside. Photos. Dozens of them. Of me. Sleeping. Sitting. Standing in the kitchen. Taken from inside the cabin. From angles that didn't make sense. Except now I know. They weren't taken from the rooms. They were taken from below. From inside the walls. I almost called the police the moment I stepped inside, but the front door slammed shut behind me before I could turn around. I remember the sound clearly, not loud, not violent, just final. Like someone had decided I wasn't leaving. I told myself it was the wind. The Airbnb listing said, "Quiet mountain retreat." It was deep in a remote area, at least an hour away from the nearest town. No neighbors. No signal. Just trees, and a narrow dirt road that barely looked used. I had booked it for 2 nights. I wanted silence. Time to think. I got more than that. The cabin looked normal from the outside. Old wood. Small porch. One window glowing faintly from inside, like someone had left a light on for me. That part felt comforting at first. But when I stepped in, the air felt wrong. Stale. Not unused but occupied. I stood there for a second just listening. Nothing. No hum of electricity. No insects. Not even wind outside. Just quiet. I shut the door behind me and locked it. I even checked it twice. Then I set my bag down and started looking around. The place was clean. Too clean. No dust anywhere. The bed was made perfectly. Kitchen spotless. Bathroom dry, like no one had used it in days. But there was something else. A smell. Not strong, but there. Like damp fabric, or something that had been sweating for too long. I tried to ignore it. I unpacked a bit, turned on a lamp and sat on the bed. The silence was starting to get heavy, so I pulled out my phone. No signal like expected. That's when I heard it. A soft, slow step. Behind me. I froze. It came from the hallway. Just one step. Then nothing. I didn't turn around immediately. I just sat there, listening harder than I ever had in my life. My heart was pounding so loud it felt like it would give me away. "Hello?" I called out. No answer. I stood up slowly and walked toward the hallway. Every step I took felt too loud, like the floor was trying to betray me. The hallway led to the bathroom and a small storage room. The bathroom door was open. Empty. The storage room door was closed. I stared at it. The handle wasn't moving. No sound inside. I told myself it was just the wood settling. Old cabins make noises. Still. I reached for the handle. And stopped. Something felt off. Like I wasn't supposed to open it. Like someone on the other side was waiting for that exact moment. I stepped back. "Nope," I whispered. "Not doing that." I went back to the main room and sat down again, trying to calm myself. I even laughed a little. Nervous, stupid. Then I heard it again. This time 2 steps. Closer. Not from the hallway. From behind the wall. I turned my head slowly toward the sound. The wall next to the bed. It wasn't solid wood like the others. It had a slightly different texture. Paneling. Cheap, thin paneling. And behind it, something moved. A faint scrape. Then breathing. Very soft. But real. I couldn't move. I just stared at that wall, my brain refusing to accept what I was hearing. Someone was behind it. Someone had been there the whole time. Watching. Listening. Waiting. I grabbed my bag slowly, trying not to make noise. My hands were shaking so badly I almost dropped my keys. Then the breathing stopped. Complete silence again. And suddenly, the panel shifted. Just a little. Enough to create a thin, dark gap. I saw it. An eye. Looking straight at me. Not blinking. I don't remember deciding to run. My body just did it. I bolted for the door, fumbled with the lock, nearly broke the handle trying to open it. It finally gave and I stumbled outside into the cold night air. I didn't look back. I ran straight to my car, jumped in and locked the doors. That's when I saw him. Through the cabin window. Standing inside. Not behind the wall anymore. He was tall, thin, wearing dark clothes that blended into the shadows. Just staring at me. Then he smiled. Not wide. Not crazy. Just calm. Like this was normal for him. Like I was just another guest who didn't stay long enough. I drove away faster than I ever have in my life. I didn't stop until I hit the main road. I reported it the next day. Gave them the listing, the location, everything. They told me something that still makes my stomach turn. That cabin wasn't listed anymore. It had been removed weeks before I booked it. Which means whoever I rented it from was already inside. Waiting. I woke up to the sound of someone breathing, right next to my ear. Not loud. Not exaggerated. Just slow, steady, human. The problem was, I was alone. I booked the place because it was cheap. Too cheap, honestly. A small cabin listed as an off-grid forest retreat. No neighbors. No signal. Just trees and silence. It was somewhere deep in the mountains, about a 2-hour drive from the nearest town. The host sent me a message before I arrived. Door will be unlocked. Please don't use the storage room. That was it. No explanation. No greeting. I remember thinking it was weird, but not weird enough to cancel. The cabin looked normal from the outside. Old but not abandoned. The kind of place people go to disconnect. Wooden walls, a small porch, and a rusted lantern hanging by the door. Inside it smelled stale. Like it hadn't been aired out in a long time. There were 2 rooms. A small bedroom and a living area with a couch and kitchen corner. And then, there was the 3rd door. The storage room. It was at the end of the hallway. Locked. No handle from the outside, just a keyhole. I didn't think much of it at first. The first night was quiet. Too quiet. No wind. No insects. No distant animals. Just silence. I tried to sleep but something felt off. That kind of feeling you can't explain, like your body knows something your brain doesn't. Around 2 a.m. I heard it. Footsteps. Slow, careful. Inside the cabin. I froze. Listened. Step. Pause. Step. It was coming from the hallway. I told myself it was the wood settling. Old cabins make noise. Then it stopped, right outside my door. I could hear it clearly now. Breathing. Someone was standing there. I didn't move. I didn't even breathe properly. Just lay there, staring at the door, waiting for it to open. But it didn't. After what felt like forever, the sound faded. Step. Step. Back into the hallway. Then nothing. I didn't sleep after that. When morning came, I checked everything. Doors locked. Windows shut. No signs of forced entry. I almost convinced myself I imagined it. Almost. The second day felt wrong. I kept noticing small things. My bag, slightly unzipped. A chair, not where I left it. The kitchen knife. Missing from the counter. That's when I started getting nervous. I checked the entire cabin again. Nothing. Except the storage room. I stood in front of it for a long time. The keyhole was scratched. Fresh marks, like someone had used it recently. I pressed my ear against the door. At first, nothing. Then, a soft movement. Like fabric brushing against wood. I stepped back immediately. Something was inside. I should have left right then. I know that. But I didn't. I told myself there had to be a logical explanation. Maybe the host stored something in there. Maybe an animal got trapped. I tried the door. Locked. I searched the cabin for the key. Drawers. Cabinets. Under the couch. Nothing. That night, I pushed a chair against my bedroom door. Just in case. I kept the lights on. And I waited. Around 凌晨1点半. It started again. Footsteps. But this time, faster. Not careful. Pacing. Back and forth in the hallway. Then a loud 信号 thud 信号. From the storage room. Again. Thud. Like someone hitting the door from the inside. I grabbed my phone but there was no signal. Then, the footsteps stopped. Silence. And then, my door handle moved. Slowly. Gently. It didn't open because of the chair, but whoever was on the other side didn't try to force it. They just tested it. Then stopped. I could hear them breathing again. Closer this time. Right against the door. Then a whisper. Very quiet. Please. My blood went cold. It didn't sound threatening. It sounded desperate. Broken. Human. Please let me out. I didn't respond. I couldn't. My entire body was locked. After a few seconds, the voice changed. Same person, but different tone. Calm. Flat. You shouldn't be here. Something slammed hard against the door. The chair shifted. I screamed and pushed it back with all my weight. Then, running footsteps. Not away. Toward the storage room. The door at the end of the hallway started shaking violently. Bang! 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 I stayed there until morning. Didn't move. Didn't sleep. As soon as it was light, I ran. Didn't pack. Didn't look back. Just got in my car and drove. About 20 minutes down the road, I finally got signal. I called the host. No answer. Then I called the police. They went to check the cabin. I waited in town. A few hours later, an officer came to talk to me. His face said everything before he even spoke. They found the storage room. It wasn't locked from the outside. It locked from the inside. And inside they found a man. Barely alive. Chained to the wall. He had been there for days. Maybe longer. But that's not the part that still keeps me awake. The officer asked me something before I left. He said, "You're sure you were alone in the cabin?" I said yes. Of course I was. He looked at me for a long moment, then said, "That's strange. Because we found 2 sets of footprints inside. One leading to the storage room. And another one that stops right outside your bedroom door." The front door was already unlocked when I got there, and I knew I hadn't been given a code yet. I stood on the porch, phone in hand, rereading the Airbnb message. Self-check-in. Code will be sent 1 hour before arrival. It never came. But the door, it creaked open the second I touched it. I should have left right then. I think about that moment a lot. How easy it would have been to turn around, get back in my car and drive away. Instead, I stepped inside. The place was deep in the mountains. No neighbors. No signal. Just a narrow dirt road that took almost 40 minutes to climb. I had booked it because I wanted silence. A break from everything. And at first, it was exactly that. The cabin was clean. Too clean. Like no one had actually lived there. The air smelled faintly like bleach. The windows were covered with thick curtains, even though it was still daylight. I dropped my bag near the couch and called the host again. No answer. I sent a message. "Hey, I'm inside. Door was unlocked. Didn't get the code." No reply. I tried to ignore the feeling creeping up my spine. That quiet, nagging sense that something was off. So I walked through the cabin. 1 bedroom. 1 bathroom. Small kitchen. Everything looked normal, until I noticed the locks. Not just on the doors. On the inside of the bedroom. 3 separate locks. Heavy ones. Like the kind you'd use to keep something out, or in. I laughed it off. Nervous, stupid laugh. "Maybe it's just for safety," I said out loud. Hearing my own voice in that empty place made it worse. Night came fast in the mountains. By 8 p.m. it was completely dark outside. No streetlights. No distant houses. Just blackness pressing against the windows. That's when I heard the first sound. Footsteps. Soft. Slow. Outside. I froze on the couch, TV flickering in front of me. The volume was low, but I muted it anyway. The footsteps stopped. Then, a single crunch of gravel. Closer this time. Right outside the front door. I held my breath. "Hello." I called out. Nothing. No answer. No movement. Just silence so thick it made my ears ring. I got up slowly and walked to the door. My hand hovered over the handle, but I didn't open it. Instead, I looked through the small gap in the curtain. At first, I saw nothing. Then I realized, something was wrong with the ground. The gravel near the door had been disturbed. Fresh footprints. Barefoot. I stepped back so fast I hit the wall. Okay. I whispered to myself. Maybe it's the host. Maybe they forgot something. But who walks barefoot in freezing mountain air at night? And why didn't they knock? I locked the door. Every lock it had. Then I went to the bedroom and locked all 3 locks there too. That's where I stayed. Lights off. Phone in hand. No signal. Waiting. Around midnight I heard it again. This time, it wasn't outside. It was inside. A slow, dragging step. From the living room. My chest tightened. My throat went dry. "No," I whispered. I knew I had locked the door. I checked it twice. The footsteps moved closer. Heavy now. Deliberate. Step, drag, step. Then they stopped right outside the bedroom door. I stared at the handle. It didn't move. For a long time, nothing happened. And then, a soft breath. Right on the other side. I stopped breathing. There was someone standing there. Close enough that I could hear their lungs. Slow. Calm. Like they had all the time in the world. Then came the sound I'll never forget. A fingernail. Lightly scraping down the wood of the door. Slow. Patient. Like they were thinking. I wanted to scream. I wanted to run. But I couldn't move. I just sat there, staring, waiting. Minutes passed. Maybe longer. Then, the footsteps started again. Moving away from the door. Back into the living room. I didn't sleep. I didn't move. I just sat there until the faintest light of morning crept through the curtains. When it was bright enough, I unlocked the bedroom door. My hands were shaking so bad I could barely hold the keys. I opened it slowly. The cabin was empty. Silent. Like nothing had happened. I rushed to the front door. Still locked. All the locks exactly how I left them. But the chain was hanging loose. I know I had hooked it. I know I did. I grabbed my bag and ran outside. That's when I saw it. The footprints again. Barefoot. Leading away from the cabin. And then circling back. Over and over. Around the house. Dozens of times. Like someone had been walking in circles all night. Waiting. I got in my car and drove down that mountain faster than I ever have. When I finally got signal, I called Airbnb. They told me something that made my stomach drop. That listing had been taken down 2 days before my booking. The host's account was gone. No record of the owner. No contact information. Nothing. I never found out who unlocked that door. Or how they got inside. But the worst part. A week later I checked my phone gallery. There was a photo I never took. Taken at 2:13 a.m. From inside the bedroom. Of me. Sitting on the bed. Facing the door. And in the small gap between the door and the frame. You can see part of a face. Watching me. From the inside. The front door locked from the outside, while I was still inside. I didn't hear footsteps. I didn't hear a car. Just the soft click of the bolts sliding into place, and then silence so thick it felt like the walls were holding their breath. I remember just standing there, staring at the door, waiting for it to open again. Like maybe I imagined it. It didn't. I booked the place last minute. Some cheap cabin deep in the mountains. The listing said perfect for disconnecting. No neighbors. No signal. Just trees and quiet. That part was true. The drive there took longer than expected. The road narrowed until it became dirt, then barely even that. By the time I arrived, it was already getting dark. The cabin looked normal. Old but clean. A single light on the porch. No host. Just a key under a rock like the instructions said. Inside everything felt slightly off. Not dirty. Not broken. Just used. Like someone had been there recently but tried to hide it. A mug still damp in the sink. A chair slightly pulled out at the table. I told myself it was nothing. Maybe the cleaner rushed. I locked the door behind me anyway. The first hour was quiet. Too quiet. No wind. No insects. Just this heavy silence pressing in from outside. I tried to distract myself. Scrolled my phone, no signal. Of course. Then I heard it. Footsteps. Outside. Slow. Careful. Crunching on gravel. I froze. They stopped right outside the window. I held my breath, waiting, listening. Nothing. I forced myself to move. Just a few steps closer to the window. My reflection stared back at me in the dark glass. I cupped my hands around my eyes and looked out. Trees. Darkness. No one. I let out a shaky breath, stepped back. 信号 tap 信号. Right on the glass. I jumped so hard I hit the wall behind me. There was no one there. I checked the door. Still locked. Windows all closed. I told myself it could have been a branch. An animal. Anything. But there were no trees close enough to touch the window. That's when I noticed the second thing. The bedroom door was open. I was sure I had closed it. I don't know why that scared me more than the footsteps. Maybe because it meant something had moved inside, not outside. I grabbed a knife from the kitchen. My hands were shaking so bad I could barely hold it. I walked toward the bedroom slowly. Every step felt too loud. The hallway seemed longer than before. The air felt thicker. I pushed the door open wider. Empty. The bed was untouched. The window shut. Closet door slightly open. I stood there listening. Then I heard it again. Not footsteps this time. Breathing. Soft. Slow. Controlled. From inside the closet. My chest tightened. I couldn't move for a second. My brain kept trying to explain it away, but nothing made sense. The breathing stopped. Silence. Then, a slight shift inside. Fabric brushing against wood. I backed away. Slowly. Then I ran. I rushed to the front door, grabbed the handle and pulled. It didn't move. That's when I heard the click. From the outside. The bolt sliding shut. I started banging on the door, yelling, not even sure who I was yelling at. My voice sounded small, swallowed by the woods. Behind me. A floorboard creaked. I turned around slowly. The hallway was dark now. I didn't remember turning off the light. At the end of it, the bedroom door was fully open. And something had changed. The closet door was wider now. I could see inside. Clothes hanging. And behind them. A shape. Too still. Too tall. Watching me. I ran to the back of the cabin, looking for another exit. There was a window above the sink. I didn't even think. I just smashed it with the knife and pulled myself through, cutting my arm in the process. I hit the ground outside hard. Cold air hit my face. I scrambled up and ran. Didn't look back. Didn't stop. I don't know how long I ran through those trees. My lungs burned. My legs felt like they'd give out any second. But I kept hearing it. Not behind me. Beside me. Matching my pace. Branches snapping, breathing, closer, then gone, then close again. Like it was playing with me. Eventually I reached the road. I don't even remember how. I just know I collapsed there. A passing truck found me hours later. When I finally got signal again, I tried to report the place. The listing was gone. Completely erased. No record. No messages. Nothing. A week later I got something in the mail. No return address. Just a small envelope. Inside. A photo. Printed. Grainy. Dark. It was me inside the cabin, standing at the front door, pulling on the handle. And behind me. In the hallway. The closet door open. And something stepping out of it. Not blurry. Not unclear. A man. Smiling. Holding the bolt. From the inside. The Airbnb host told me to never open the storage room under the stairs, but the door was already open when I arrived. I remember standing there with my suitcase in one hand, staring at that narrow black opening. The listing photos never showed it. The description didn't mention it either. Just a quiet mountain retreat, perfect for disconnecting. It was definitely quiet. Too quiet. The cabin sat alone deep in the mountains, about 40 minutes from the nearest town. No neighbors. No cell signal. Just trees. Endless trees pressing in from every direction. At first everything felt normal. Clean bed. Working lights. A small kitchen. I even laughed at myself for feeling uneasy. I figured the open storage door was just the cleaner forgetting to shut it. So I closed it. That's when I heard the first sound. A soft, slow scrape. From the other side. I froze. My hand still on the knob. "Hello," I said. No answer. Just silence. I told myself it was probably pipes. Or maybe something shifting inside. Old cabins make noise. That's what I kept repeating in my head. Still, I locked it. That night I couldn't sleep. The forest outside was loud. Wind pushing through branches. Something moving in the leaves. Occasional snapping sounds far off in the dark. But there was something else too, something inside. Footsteps. Very faint. Slow. Like someone walking carefully across the wooden floor. I sat up in bed, holding my breath. Listening. Step. Step. Then it stopped. I grabbed my phone to use the flashlight and stepped into the hallway. My heart was pounding so hard it felt like it was shaking my vision. Nothing. The cabin was empty. I checked the front door. Still locked. Windows all shut. Then I noticed it. The storage room door. Unlocked. Slightly open again. I swear. I locked it. I walked toward it slowly. Every step felt wrong. Like I was moving closer to something that didn't want to be seen. The door creaked as I pushed it wider. Darkness. Thick, heavy darkness. The smell hit me first. Damp. Rotten. Like wet wood and something else, something sour. I shined my light inside. Just a small, cramped space. Old shelves. Tools. A dirty blanket on the floor. Nothing moved. I let out a shaky breath and closed it again. This time I pushed a chair against the handle. I barely slept after that. Morning came, and I convinced myself I was overreacting. I even made coffee. Sat by the window. Tried to relax. That's when I saw the footprints. Outside. Circling the cabin. Deep impressions in the dirt, like someone had been walking around it all night. Slow circles. Over and over. My stomach dropped. There were no footprints leading away. Just circles. I packed my bag immediately. I didn't care about losing money. I just wanted out. But when I reached the front door, it wouldn't open. The handle turned, but something was blocking it from the outside. My chest tightened. I pushed harder. Nothing. That's when I heard it again. Behind me. Inside the cabin. A slow, dragging step. I turned around. The chair I placed against the storage door was moved. The door, wide open. And this time I could see deeper inside. There was a narrow space behind the shelves. Like a hidden crawl space. And from inside that darkness, I heard breathing. Not loud. Not aggressive. Just calm. Steady breathing. Like someone had been there the entire time. Watching. Waiting. I grabbed a knife from the kitchen without thinking. My hands were shaking so badly I almost dropped it. "Who's there?" I said, my voice barely working. The breathing stopped. Silence filled the cabin again. Then a shift. A slow movement in the darkness. And something crawled forward. A man. Thin. Filthy. Barefoot. His eyes locked onto mine instantly. No surprise. No confusion. Just recognition. Like he already knew me. He didn't speak. He just smiled. A slow, empty smile. Then he whispered. "You weren't supposed to lock it." I ran. I don't even remember how I got the door open, but suddenly I was outside, stumbling, slipping in the dirt, running toward my car. I didn't look back. I just drove. Hours later, when I finally had signal, I called the police. They found him, living inside the crawlspace behind the storage room. He had been there for weeks. Maybe longer. The worst part? They told me the Airbnb host had reported strange noises before. Guests complaining. Bookings cancelled. But the listing stayed up. Still active. Still available. And when I checked a few days later, it was already booked again. I realized someone else had been inside the cabin, not because anything was missing, but because everything had been moved just slightly, like someone wanted me to notice. The chair wasn't where I left it. The window latch was open. And my suitcase was zipped differently than I remembered. I booked the place last minute. It was deep in the mountains, about a 2-hour drive from the nearest town. No signal. No neighbors. Just trees, endless trees. The listing looked normal. Clean. Quiet. Perfect for disconnecting. That's what I wanted. When I arrived, it was already getting dark. The dirt road leading to the cabin was narrow and barely visible. My headlights kept catching shapes between the trees. Trunks, I told myself. Just trunks. The cabin itself looked fine. Old but solid. One floor. Wooden porch. No lights outside. The host had left a key under a rock, just like the instructions said. Inside it smelled off. Not rotten. Just stale. Like the place hadn't been aired out in a while. I checked every room. One bedroom. One bathroom. A small kitchen. No basement. No attic access that I could see. Everything seemed fine. I locked the door. Closed all the windows. Double-checked. Still, I couldn't shake the feeling that I wasn't alone. That first night I tried to relax. I made some food. Sat on the couch. Listened to the silence. That's when I heard it. A soft crunch outside. I froze. Another step. Slow. Careful. Not an animal. It didn't sound random. It sounded controlled. Like someone trying not to be heard. I turned off the lights immediately. The room went black. I stayed still. Barely breathing. The footsteps stopped. For a few seconds, nothing. Then I heard it again. Closer this time. Right outside the wall. I didn't move. My heart was pounding so loud I thought whoever it was could hear it. After a minute, it stopped. No more sounds. I stayed awake for hours. Just listening. Eventually, I must have fallen asleep. When I woke up, it was morning. Sunlight coming through the window. Everything looked normal again. I told myself it was probably an animal. Maybe a deer. Maybe I imagined the pattern of the steps. I almost left that morning. I should have. But I didn't. The second day was quiet. Too quiet. No birds. No wind. Just stillness. I decided to go for a short walk around the cabin. That's when I saw the footprints. They weren't animal tracks. They were human. Fresh. Leading from the tree line, straight to the side of the cabin. I followed them slowly. They stopped right under the bedroom window. I looked up. The window I had locked was slightly open. Just a crack. I felt something drop in my stomach. I was sure I had closed it. I stepped back. My eyes scanning the trees. That feeling came back. Being watched. I went inside immediately. Locked everything again. Checked every room. Nothing missing. Nothing broken. But now, I knew. Someone had been there. That night I didn't turn on any lights. I sat in the dark, holding a kitchen knife, staring at the door. Hours passed. Then, the handle moved. Slowly. Just a slight turn. I stopped breathing. The door didn't open. Just tested. Like someone checking if it was locked. Then silence. A few seconds later, a soft knock. 3 times. Not loud. Not aggressive. Just calm. Deliberate. I didn't respond. Another knock. This time on the window. I turned my head slowly. I couldn't see anything outside. Just darkness. But I heard it. Breathing. Right on the other side of the glass. Slow. Heavy. Close. I felt my hands shaking. Then a whisper. I know you're awake. My chest tightened so hard it hurt. I didn't move. Didn't speak. Minutes passed. Maybe longer. Then, footsteps again. Walking away. I stayed there all night. Frozen. As soon as the sun came up, I grabbed my things and ran to my car. I didn't even lock the cabin behind me. I just drove. Didn't stop until I reached the main road. When I finally got signal, I called the host. Told them everything. There was a long pause. Then they said something that made my skin crawl. They told me I wasn't the first guest to report someone outside at night. I asked why the place was still listed. They didn't answer. Later that day, I checked the photos I had taken when I arrived. Just random shots of the cabin, the inside, the view. That's when I saw it. In one of the pictures, taken inside the bedroom, the closet door was slightly open. And inside, you could see part of a face. Watching me. From the moment I walked in. I realized someone else was inside the cabin when I saw the second pair of footprints, leading out of my bedroom. I hadn't even unpacked yet. The place was deep in the mountains, hours away from the nearest town. The kind of Airbnb you book when you want silence. No people, no noise, no signal. Just trees and wind. At least that's what the listing promised. The drive up was rough. Dirt road, no signs, just a pin on the map that kept getting closer while everything else disappeared. By the time I got there, it was already getting dark. The cabin looked exactly like the photos. Small. Wooden. Alone in the middle of nowhere. I remember thinking, this is perfect. Inside, everything seemed clean. A little too clean, maybe. No dust. No smell. Just still air. Like no one had been there for a while, but somehow it was all maintained. I dropped my bag near the couch and walked around, checking rooms. 1 bedroom. 1 bathroom. A small kitchen. Nothing unusual. But when I entered the bedroom, I stopped. The bed was made. Tight. Perfect. But the pillow, it had a slight dent in it. Like someone had just been lying there. I stood there for a few seconds just staring. Then I shook it off. Probably just the way it was arranged. I mean, this is an Airbnb. People come and go. Right. I went back to the living room, trying not to overthink it. The sun had already dropped behind the trees. The windows were turning into black mirrors. That's when I heard it. A soft sound from outside. Crunch. Like a footstep on gravel. I froze. Another one. Crunch, crunch. Slow. Careful. I walked toward the window and tried to look out, but all I saw was my own reflection. Behind it. Nothing but darkness. I told myself it was an animal. Maybe a deer. This was the mountains after all. Still. I locked the door. Then I checked it again. And again. I turned off the lights and sat on the couch, trying to calm down. My phone had no signal. No way to call anyone even if I wanted to. A few minutes passed. Then I heard it again. This time closer. Right outside the wall. Not random movement anymore. It sounded controlled. Like someone pacing. Back and forth. Back and forth. I held my breath. The footsteps stopped. Silence. Then, a faint sound. Breathing. Right on the other side of the wall. Slow. Heavy. Deliberate. I didn't move. I couldn't. My chest felt tight. My ears were ringing. Then suddenly, a sharp knock. 3 times. Not loud, but firm. I jumped back, hitting the couch behind me. "Hello," I called out. My voice sounded weak. No answer. I waited. Nothing. Just silence again. I forced myself to move. Slowly I walked toward the door. Each step felt wrong. Like I shouldn't be doing this. But I needed to know. I reached for the handle and paused. Then I looked down. That's when I saw it. Footprints. Fresh ones. Right outside the door. But they weren't alone. There were 2 sets. One set leading up to the door. And another set leading away. But the second set started right at the door. Not from the outside path. From inside. My stomach dropped. I backed away slowly. That's when I noticed something else. The bedroom door. It was slightly open. I was sure I had closed it earlier. I didn't want to go in there. Every part of me said don't. But I couldn't ignore it. I walked toward it, step by step. Pushed the door open. The bed wasn't made anymore. The sheets were pulled back. Messy. Like someone had been lying there recently. And on the pillow, there was a dark, wet spot. I leaned closer. It wasn't water. It was sweat. Still fresh. Then I heard it. Behind me. A floorboard creaked. Inside the cabin. I turned slowly. The living room was dark. But I could see movement. A shadow shifting near the corner. Too big to be a trick of light. Too slow to be an animal. Someone was standing there. Watching me. I didn't scream. I didn't run. I just froze. The shadow moved forward, just slightly. And I heard that same breathing again. Closer now. Inside the room. Then a voice. Low. Calm. Right in front of me. I was waiting for you to fall asleep. That snapped me out of it. I turned and ran. Straight for the door. I didn't even grab my bag. I threw it open and sprinted into the dark. Branches hit my face. Rocks under my feet. I didn't care. I just kept running. I didn't stop until I reached my car. I locked myself inside, shaking, trying to start the engine. It took 3 tries. As the headlights came on, I saw him. Standing near the cabin. Not chasing me. Just watching. Completely still. Like he knew I'd come back. I drove all the way down the mountain without stopping. Didn't report it. Didn't call anyone. I just wanted to forget. But I couldn't. Because the next morning, I checked the Airbnb listing again. It was gone. Completely removed. No host. No history. Nothing. Like it never existed. Except, my bag was still inside that cabin. And my name was still on the booking. The lock on the bedroom door was already broken when I tried it, and I know I didn't touch it before. I stood there, staring at the loose metal latch hanging at an angle, gently swinging like someone had just forced it open from the inside. That's when I heard footsteps upstairs. The Airbnb listing said the place was a quiet mountain retreat. It looked normal in the pictures. Wooden cabin. Pine trees all around. No neighbors for miles. Exactly what I wanted, or at least what I thought I wanted. I arrived just before sunset. The road leading up to the cabin was narrow and empty. No cars. No people. Just trees and silence. Even my GPS lost signal about 10 minutes before I reached the place. At first, everything seemed fine. The host had left the key under a rock, just like the instructions said. The door opened easily. Inside, the cabin smelled old. Not rotten, just unused. Dust in the corners. A faint smell of damp wood. Still, it wasn't alarming. I dropped my bag, checked the rooms. One small kitchen. A living area. A bathroom. And a staircase leading up to a single-bedroom loft. That's when I noticed something strange. There were 2 mugs on the table. One clean, and one with dried coffee stains inside. I remember pausing, staring at it. Maybe the cleaner missed it. That's what I told myself. I rinsed it out, trying not to overthink things. Night came fast in that place. The trees blocked out most of the remaining light, and soon the cabin felt cut off from everything. No signal. No internet. Just silence. Around 9 p.m. I heard the first sound. A soft thump from upstairs. I froze. I hadn't gone up there yet. I told myself it was the wood settling. Old cabins do that, right? Still, I grabbed my phone and turned on the flashlight. I climbed the stairs slowly. Each step creaked loudly. Too loudly. At the top, there was a small open space with a bed and a window overlooking the forest. Nothing looked disturbed. I checked under the bed. The closet. Nothing. But when I turned to leave, I noticed the window was slightly open. Just a few inches. I clearly remember closing all the windows downstairs. I was sure of it. A cold breeze slipped through, brushing against my neck. I shut it tight. Locked it. Then I went back downstairs. I tried to relax. Sat on the couch. Scrolled through the few offline things on my phone. But I couldn't shake the feeling, like I wasn't alone. Around midnight it happened again. Footsteps. Slow. Careful. Directly above me. Not random creaks. Not wood settling. Actual steps. I held my breath. They stopped when I stopped moving. Then, one more step. Right above my head. I grabbed a knife from the kitchen without even thinking. My hands were shaking. I moved toward the stairs again, every part of me screaming not to go up there. But I couldn't just sit there. Halfway up I heard something else. Breathing. Not mine. Slow. Heavy. Close. I stopped. The breathing stopped too. We were both frozen, listening. Then suddenly, rapid footsteps. Running. Across the room upstairs. I rushed up the last few steps, heart pounding so hard it hurt. The room was empty. But the bed. The blanket was slightly lifted, like someone had just gotten off it. I backed away slowly, gripping the knife tighter. That's when I saw it. The closet door. It was open now. I was sure it had been closed before. Inside, nothing. Just darkness. But the smell hit me first. Sweat. Stale. Human. Someone had been in there. Recently. I stumbled back, nearly falling down the stairs. I didn't care about my things anymore. I just wanted to get out. I ran downstairs, grabbed my keys and yanked the front door open. But before I stepped outside, I heard it. Right behind me. A whisper. So close it felt like lips brushed my ear. Don't go. I spun around, swinging the knife wildly. Nothing. The room was empty. But the front door. It slammed shut. Hard. I rushed to open it again, but the handle wouldn't move. It was locked. From the outside. Panic hit me like a wave. I started banging on the door, yelling, pulling at it with everything I had. Then, I heard slow footsteps coming down the stairs. Not rushing this time. Just calm. Heavy steps. Getting closer. I backed away, my grip on the knife slipping from sweat. The footsteps reached the bottom. Stopped. I couldn't see anyone. But I could hear breathing again. Closer. Right in front of me. Then something grabbed my wrist. Hard. I screamed and slashed blindly with the knife. There was a sharp cry, human this time, and the grip loosened. I didn't wait. I threw my weight against the door again and again until something gave. The lock snapped. I stumbled outside and ran. I didn't stop running until I reached my car. I drove down that dark road faster than I ever have in my life. The next morning I went to the police. They went back to the cabin. What they found There was a hidden crawlspace above the bedroom. Not visible unless you knew where to look. It connected to the closet. Inside they found blankets, food wrappers, water bottles. Someone had been living there. Watching guests. Waiting. But the part that still messes with me. They found blood on the floor near the front door. And a trail of it. Leading away into the forest. They never found whoever it was. But sometimes, late at night, I still feel that breath near my ear. And I remember the voice. Don't go.